Okay, y'all, you know the drill. We are doing another taupe eyeshadow look, and I figured we could revisit the Lisa Eldridge Betty palette because there is actually a stunning taupe eyeshadow in there, like a prime example of a taupe. This mushroom shade here, which is called Talk to the Paw. That's going to be kind of like the central shade that we're going to center the look around. But as usual, before we get into the eye look, I've already done my base makeup, but I haven't done any of the color cosmetics. So I'm going to go into my bronzer, and for today's look I'm going to grab the Mario Soft Sculpt Defining Bronzer in the shade Light Medium. Now you'll see a lot of my like cooler toned color cosmetics come back around in this video because the truth is I don't have such a large variety, nor do I want to have a large variety. I'm pretty happy with my collection currently, but that means we're going to have to regurgitate products a couple of times, which for me is not really a problem. Hope it's not for you too. If I sound a little bit husky, because I feel like I definitely am going to partly lose my voice for the rest of the day. See, it's like just dropping and sounding more and more husky. Oh gosh. Let's hope I can make it to the end of this video. I'm going to take the Alluring Nude Cream Blush stick from Pat McGrath Labs. So the thing is, do you guys know K-pop Demon Hunters? I feel like at this point there's not a single person on the planet who has not heard of K-pop Demon Hunters. And my husband has been trying to convince me to watch the movie already for at least, like ever since it came out, he's been trying to convince me to watch it. But I've been very resistant because I have nothing with K-pop. I know nothing about it. I know no bands, I know no songs. The only song I know is one that we've played several times in my boss's car when we were going to meetings because his daughter is like crazy K-pop fan. She even went to Korea this past year for like an exchange program. She loves K-pop, and because of that his Spotify is also flooded with K-pop songs. So I do know the one K-pop song, and that's about it. So I have no feelings for K-pop. So I figured K-pop Demon Hunters, as much fun as it sounds, just doesn't sound appealing, okay? Holds no appeal. I don't think I will like it, or I didn't. Well, it's too early to say, because the thing is, I didn't think I would like it, but of course the song Golden has been playing on the radio on repeat for the past however long the movie has been out for. And of course I'm not deaf, I've heard it, and you know what? It's a catchy song. There's no way you're not going to start singing along. And by the by, I still haven't watched K-pop Demon Hunters, but I finally agreed to watch it, so this evening Hubs and I are finally going to watch K-pop Demon Hunters, and I am very curious what I'm going to think about it. I'm going to take the Victoria Beckham highlighter stick in the shade Pearl. So the song has been stuck in my head, and I also watched the live performance that they gave on the Jimmy Fallon show, and I kind of fell in love with the song, I must tell you. So on the show they're singing it at least 2 keys lower, which is why I could even attempt to sing it, because what they do in the movie is in such a like high key that I could never in a million years hit those high notes. So I decided that I'm going to try to learn the song, and I decided to do it literally right before I filmed this video, which is why now my voice is really husky, because the song is actually really difficult, because it goes from really low to really high, then back to low, then back to really high. And despite taking singing lessons, I'm still not anywhere near knowing what the fuck I'm doing, you know. I just have learned a few tips and tricks, and I am not as abysmal as I used to be a couple of years ago when I started taking singing lessons, but that still doesn't mean that I am pro enough to be singing this song. So hopefully you will forgive my slightly husky voice at the moment. Okay, we've done the color cosmetics, so let's get started on the eye look. I also felt like it was deeply appropriate to incorporate the Vega palette into this look, because if this is not an epitome for the color taupe, I don't know what is. There are a couple of shades in here that would also serve really well and like would fit beautifully in this series, but the shades that I'm going to use today are first of all these 2 mattes over here. I'm going to sort of mix them together on a fluffy blending brush, and I'm going to apply them through my crease. This one is very light, so it barely shows up, but when I mix it with this one, they make the most beautiful taupe, like crease shade, and I really enjoy this formula. This matte formula from Lisa Eldridge is one that is not a cult favorite, because I don't think it's a kind of formula that works for everyone. It's what I would call your very classic, like cream to powder. So it doesn't have the kind of powderiness. What the hell happened here? I'm sorry, something happened and a lot of that dark shade went onto my brush. So now I'm going to have to fix this issue. Thank goodness this blends out like a dream, so it wasn't really that much of an issue. I don't know, I don't really particularly find this formula very difficult to work with, but if you're used to like more powdery, like think of the Viseart matte eyeshadows. I think they have much more powderiness to them compared to this formula from Lisa Eldridge, which is why I think you really have to prefer one over the other. Personally, I'm a huge fan of these like cream to powder formula eyeshadows because I think they just glide on the eyelid and they look so incredibly flattering on the skin, which I don't find always to be the case with shadows which are too powdery. I think sometimes those shadows can end up looking really dry and like they can make your skin look really like wrinkled and devoid of life. And now let's go into the Berry palette. In full disclosure, I think if you don't have the Vega palette or you don't want to bother applying a matte eyeshadow through your crease, you don't have to, because the eyeshadow we're going to use now, the shade Talk to the Paw, is gorgeous, blends out beautifully and doesn't need a matte to help it blend out. But I'm feeling a little bit extra because I really wanted to incorporate the Vega palette into our series. Now Talk to the Paw here is absolutely gorgeous. It has a beautiful sheen to it. It's not a high shine metallic eyeshadow, it definitely doesn't have like any sort of glitter going on it, but it has such a velvety, beautiful texture to it. I'm pretty sure this is one of those like back injected slurry eyeshadows. Anyway, I'm going to apply this shade all over my lid, just using my finger, and I'm going to apply it a bit haphazardly here because we're just going to lay it down and bother with blending later. So I'm going to grab my little blending brush here and just give it a nice little blend. And I don't know where you can also see that, but it's quite obvious that when you start blending it, the sheen almost goes away and what you're left with is like this demi matte finish. And repeating on my other eye, I really like this eyeshadow palette and I really like the two browns in here, this one and this one. We're not going to use this shade here, even though it is one of my favorites, if not my favorite. That's the shade Posh, because I feel like Posh is more of like a brown, like a rosy brown, than really a taupe. I mean, depending on your definition of taupe, and if we were using the term rather loosely, we could probably sneak in a little bit of Posh onto this look, but because I want to do something a little different, I'm not going to use Posh. But if you have the Berry palette and you wanted to just stick to that, I would just put Posh now all over the Talk to the Paw shade and it would look absolutely beautiful. Because for this next step I want to take another Lisa Eldridge product that I absolutely love, and those are her liquid lurex eyeshadows. This one in particular is the shade, I want to say Emily. Yes, that is Emily, and I consider Emily to be like a metallic glittery taupe. So that's the shade I'm going to apply all over Talk to the Paw today. And I, at one point, was becoming rather convinced that my liquid lurex eyeshadows are starting to dry out, but I think it's really, they're a little bit thicker than the Pat McGrath Labs ones, and because of that, if you like leave them like this for a while, they tend to like separate, well, not really separate, but they tend to gather on like one side of the tube and it appears as if they have dried out. But I feel like if you then use the applicator to just like smoosh it a bit around and you take it out of the container, it's still as good as new. So my fear that these are drying out and will be unusable on the short term is, I think, proving to be unfounded. Here is Emily for you. I think Emily is just such a beautiful metallic taupe, and I think it would look so pretty together with the shade Talk to the Paw from the Berry palette. So I'm going to apply a little bit of this shade over Talk to the Paw, and that's just going to add a little bit of extra shine. I'm going to clean off the Sonia G brush and I'm going to use the same brush to go into the Vega palette, and now I'm going to apply this like bluish gray shade here, which is also a matte, and that's going to go on my lower lashes because I want to apply a pop which also has a little bit of blue to it, and my jeans are also like this really dark blue color, so I think it would tie in very nicely with my whole visage for the day. So I'm going to apply a little bit of that here on the lower lashes. It's like a gorgeous like slate blue, And I love slate blues so very much. The Vega palette, in my opinion, remains a masterpiece to this day. I have to tell you, I was like slightly disappointed with the holiday collection from Lisa Eldridge. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound like a spoiled brat. I appreciate what she did with her holiday collection. I think the holiday collection is beautiful and very unique. But because I wasn't tempted to buy anything from it, I felt a little bit disappointed. Okay, the next fun element of this look is going to be Astral White from Pat McGrath Labs. I have a single here, but most of you will have this shade in your Subliminal palette. So that's Mothership 1, the one with the Blitz Blue shade in it. I'm going to take a little bit of Astral White now to apply in my inner corners. Right here. And that's going to give a gorgeous like light blue glow in my inner corners. And it's also going to tie the lid shade with the lower lashes. But I'm not going to really limit myself to just using Astral White in the inner corners, because that almost feels like, you know, we're putting baby back in the corner, and we're not going to do that. So I'm going to take a few flecks of Astral White, and I'm also going to apply those over Emily and over Talk to the Paw. And in certain lighting you're going to get these like little like hints and glimpses of the blue glitter. You can really tell it's weekend because I'm being extra and I'm going to add a little bit of like a liner here to the top lashes, and for that reason I'm going to use one of my newest Kiko eyeshadow sticks. This one I want to say is a color that you can actually find because it's one of their newer colors. This is in the shade 20 and it is called Dark Taupe, and it is a dark metallic taupe, and I think it is just delightful. It has that same mushroomy type taupeness to it as does Talk to the Paw. So that's the shade I'm going to use here to intensify a little bit the lash line, but I'm not going to go overboard. I'm just going to take a little bit of that, smoosh it around with a clean pencil brush, repeat on other eye. I think this shade would also look absolutely beautiful as like a creamy base for like metallic taupe eyeshadows. I feel like we're being visited by a cat. Oh, there's a Mona for you. And finally I'm going to pull out this other Kiko eyeshadow stick. This one I'm pretty sure is discontinued. It's in the shade 17 and it's a dark indigo blue. So I'm going to apply that here in my waterline. And I'm going to lightly set it with the shade, the slate blue shade from the Vega palette. So I'm just going to apply that here over the Kiko eyeshadow stick, and that's going to set the stick, but it's also going to make it appear a little bit more slate blue. Let me also come in a little bit closer here with the artificial light because we have two things to discuss. First of all, obviously we need to hopefully be able to see the glitter, like the blue glitters from Astral White coming through from the lids. And secondly, I have once again the Too Faced chocolate mascara, and I was wondering if you can tell a little bit better this time that I'm wearing a dark brown mascara. I feel like to me it is rather obvious that I'm not wearing a black, but at the same time it's also very hard to tell if you can see that it's really brown. I feel like it's been a hot minute since I've worn Lucents from Lisa Eldridge on my channel, so today I'm wearing not one but two. I decided to make a little mix of the shades Meet Me in Berlin and Painterly because I love the idea of like the chocolate tone of Painterly. So this is Painterly, which is more like a chocolate mauve. And of course we've got Meet Me in Berlin, which is like a cooler toned grungy brown. So I kind of like mixed the two on my lips because I wanted to get the best of both worlds. I wanted to have the chocolate, you know, undertones of Painterly, but I also wanted to have a little bit of like that cool grunge coming from Meet Me in Berlin. Also, I cannot take off that Kiko eyeshadow stick that I swatched for you earlier. Once they set, they really set. I hope that you enjoyed this look. Personally, I think this is another winner. Honestly, there's not a single look that we've done so far that I think was less my favorite compared to the others. I honestly cannot pick favorite looks because I've loved everything that we've done so far. I'm really hoping that you have enjoyed this look as well. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. I'm going to run now because we're taking my son to see Zootropolis in the cinema, and I hope you have a good day as well. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!